You have to recruit hundreds of people to support, to
Yes.
donate, and you
Yes.
have to talk to thousands of people to spread your message.
Hello and greetings, Dr. Lin. Thank,
Hello, hi, how are you?
thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming to this podcast. Dr. Conny Lin holds a PhD in neuroscience, and she has wide experience in diverse sectors, working with government and private sector. And she's currently a director at Electronic Arts that is here in Canada, right? So I'm going to let her tell us more about her story. Welcome again. Please tell us, who is Dr. Lin? I have the privilege
Oh,
because of knowing you.
we probably want to explore that through this session. I think everybody have a really rich history, so I'm going to be brief about the introduction. So currently, I'm a development director at Electronic Arts at if you play video games, it's a gaming company. And this is like where I'm the happiest place. And if people read my profile, it's a PhD in neuroscience, and I used to study addiction. It'll be like, well, how does that even come together?
Yes.
So during my PhD, my research has become really, really data heavy. And then I'm a gamer, if you cannot tell. So like, during my PhD, I also work in a gaming company on the data side. I was doing a data research and clinical trials on how the brain training game can improve your intelligence. Yeah, so that kind of tie into where I am right now, but it went in the very big circle. So during then, I was during my PhD, I was also very involved in student government in my university. So through that, I discovered how much public policy can change people's lives. And we can talk more about that later. And
Sure.
then I got dragging, like I got into running for election. And then after that, I graduated and I went into public policy sector. And then I went to pharmaceuticals, Botox therapeutics, and then gaming. You can see a big circle. So we'll talk more about that later.
Definitely. So you studied at the University of British Columbia. Do you want to tell us more about your PhD, like you studied at UBC, and which, specific qualifications that you hold academically?
Um, the PhD in neuroscience, UBC, University of British Columbia, and I had a master's as well at the same laboratory.
Yes.
So my laboratory, we study learning and memory. So this is actually quite a hot topic.
Yes.
It's right. So my lab uses, I don't know how deep we want to go into scientific academic area, but my specific research is about behavioral plasticity
Yes.
in animals who are drunk.
Oh,
So yeah, so I don't know how much more you want to dig into that.
no,
It can get really technical.
I think that's fine, Dr. Aline. I just wanted to make sure that the audience will know that, you have this master's in this and then the PhD in neuroscience. Of course, you had indicated that.
Mhm.
Now, I'm a little bit curious because I know at some point, we, supported you when you wanted to run in office. Do you want to tell us about what that experience, was like for you to, run for public office here in Canada?
I feel that was one of the most wonderful experiences that I had. I'm very glad that I did it.
Yes.
I did it at the right time, I think. Like, you need to be at the right time and your right moment in your life to
Yes.
to do that, because that is a full-time job when you're running for election. You
Yes.
do not want to go halfway, half out. That's not how it works. You cannot. It feels like really starting up a business
Yes.
very fast, and then you have to close it very fast. You
Yes.
have to recruit hundreds of people to support, to
Yes.
donate, and you
Yes.
have to talk to thousands of people to spread your message.
Yes.
And through that, I learned so much from everybody from all walks of life, about their industry, their struggle. So I personally gained a lot from it.
That was fantastic. I remember, we with other colleagues, we were walking door to door in Vancouver, And, you know, for me, growing up in Zimbabwe, now living in Canada, that experience of, you know, like seeing democracy in action was really enlightening as well.
Mm.
So I'm curious now because, you know, on your free time, you like to, you know, work, you know, with other people to make sure that they get, you know, opportunities to work, particularly people with, you know, graduate degrees like PhDs and masters. Do you want to
Mm.
tell us more about that? Because I find it to be very interesting.
Yeah, so I see people know me know that I'm very involved in nonprofit and Higher PhD is 3 years old now. And the birth of it actually came from a long time ago. So
Mhm.
I'll start with what Higher PhD does. It's kind of telling, right? Higher PhD, hire us, please. Because a
Yes.
lot of PhDs really PhDs and masters. We
Ye-
we didn't say higher PhD masters because it's not catchy. Higher
Yes.
PhD is very catchy, right?
Yes.
But we also cover masters during our education, we our bosses are trained to become professors, and they did themselves, but they were never trained. Academics, they don't train each other to work in industry. That's not how the world works,
Like we are
right?
doing now.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. And then a lot of the times, like when I was in there, a lot of the people there, that's what they want to do. Like I remember when I entered master's degree, my
Yes.
dream is Nobel Prize. Until like at the end of master's, I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna win a Nobel Prize. It's not a realistic expectation,
But
right?
there's some chance though, I still bet on you.
Yeah, yeah. So people like it become realistic. It's like going into any kind of like a very competitive industry like Olympic is happening right now. Like athletes, like yeah, you can have a dream to become the best in NHL, but like how realistic is that?
Yes.
What you know after you're going, I'm not the smartest of the crowd, blah blah blah, but I have the other passions as well, right? So starting from there, going to PhD, I started to get a lot more involved in student government, in other activities that widens my eyes on what other possibility, what other options do I have. And a lot of the masters and PhD, they didn't have that luxury.
Hmm.
So what I see later is I especially when I was president at the student government, I see a lot of them struggle.
Yes.
And yeah, and then through that, they're really like it's like 2012, 13 that I already had the idea. One day I emailed our dean of graduate study and that I told her hashtag higher PhD. And then she asked me like, what do you want to do with that? I'm like, I don't know yet. But many, many years later, I finally got the idea after I got more experience.
Yes.
I got the idea. I was like, okay, this is what I really want to do. I want to have an organization that open their eyes on what options they have.
And what are some of the options, Dr. Lin, that people with master's degrees and
Mm.
PhDs, you know, um, can have, and what are the stories and challenges which most people, like, you know, face that you address at your organization?
I think, okay, I'll break this question into two, right? First is what option do they have? And second, that will be a short answer. And second, what challenges do they have?
Yes.
The options, what option they have, there's too many. So my answer is go to our YouTube channels and you see all kinds of different options. Every 2 weeks we have new episodes about yet another options you might or might not thought of.
Yes.
And the key is about open your mind. You can do anything. If your skill set, grad school teach you the skill set of how to learn something really fast and become so good at it very short period of time so you can innovate.
Yes.
That's the skills that you have, which means that any industry you can make it.
Okay.
The second question about the challenges, self-doubt, like,
Mm.
oh, self-limiting thoughts,
Yes.
right? It's like, oh, I I am a neuroscientist. I got no qualification for becoming a development director in electronic arts. That's so far away. That's
Mm.
self-limiting.
Yes.
So a lot of times, like what we do have to do is to open people's mind when we do the resume boot camp. It's like, okay, this qualification, do you really think you don't have the qualification? Go
Yes.
ask your best friend. Go ask your parents. Go ask people who watch you.
Mhm.
They might tell you something you didn't even think you have, and you
Yes.
just didn't notice, right? Yeah.
That's interesting. So, did you in your career, but did you have self-doubt at some point? And then if so, how did you overcome that to be where you are now?
Yeah, this is a very commonly asked question. It's like another way is like imposter syndrome when you're already there, and then another way is self-limiting when you're not there, but you're limiting yourself going there. Yeah, of course. I would say that for people who have strong self-awareness, that will never go away.
Okay.
So I think another one way, at least what I do is like if I have that self-doubt, I just my personality is okay, just go try it. I'm a little more shameless and I'm not afraid of asking questions, and if people think I'm stupid, I don't care. Like it's okay, you're smarter than me. I'm fine with that, but I'm curious of
Yes.
learning from you.
Mhm.
So I think that kind of mentality of also not to be afraid of failure and not to be afraid of how people look at you is something that I don't know if everybody um people need to work on that, I'll say.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've said it here on this platform, Dr. Lin, that sometimes even myself, I have reached out to people as much as I did to you to say, oh, let me just try. But naturally, that I thought at times, that kind of self-doubt, it does creep up, right? To say, oh, I'm
Hmm.
going to accept. But I've learned that I should learn to ask. If you don't ask, then you never know, right?
Hmm.
So most of the time, I'm surprised by the gracious responses that I get to say, oh, if I didn't try, then I wouldn't have, gotten this guest on the podcast. So that's a
Hmm.
very good realization that, everyone, goes through this. So now I'm curious, what are the career highlights for you that you'd like to share? Because maybe there might be someone in some parts of the world or some Canadians who say, oh, I want to be like Dr. Lin. What are the
Hmm.
things that, you have learned that you would impart to them to say, maybe if you consider doing this, these are the mistakes that I made, and maybe this
Hmm.
is how I overcame them.
I love this question. Like, I want to be Dr. Lin, and then I'm gonna tell you a story,
Yes,
maybe like one or two that I didn't even cover.
yes,
So my first job out of PhD is a a medical office administrator. So in this medical clinic, in the
yes,
front desk, picking
yes.
up phones, that was my first job.
That was you.
That was my first job. You just need a high school diploma to do it, or maybe some specialized, some specialized medical office administration to do it. You don't need a PhD for it. And the pay is like around the same as our scholarship. That is not, it's like close to poverty.
Yes.
But it was a Botox clinic, and I
Mm,
love Botox. And remember, I said one of my career was Botox therapeutic medical science liaison.
mm,
So that was many, many years later. So
yes,
that was the first job. I got that first job. I learned so much. I never knew medical clinics operation is so complex,
yes,
so fast paced, and actually pretty high tech. It's a
yeah.
medical record on that, right? So I learned so much from it. And then the next job, I got recruited because, actually because the relationship I made during an election, like that's another lesson, network. Yeah, and then giving first before you take, right? Like, no, I will say don't even think about taking, just giving. And then when you need something, if you're always a giver, when you need something, people will come help you willingly, right? So that was another job like, oh, of course, that job, the medical office job, is not gonna be able to support myself, right? So the next job that I got recruited to is a regional sales position for a company called Fragabile. So they're more like Sigma, those kind of Fisher Scientific. They sell on like a superstore of all laboratory equipment. So I tried that 3 months. I never tried it.
Yes.
I tried it and I realized I hate being a sales.
That was
So
very
that lesson there is don't say no until you try it, right?
right.
I
Yes.
Yeah, so and then there are other jobs that I tried, like for example the policy job. I got really interested in policy, but when I first got into policy was actually somebody asked me
Mhm.
doing student government, saying like, "Hey, you're in every committee. Like, do you want to come to like policy committee?" I'm like, "No way, that is so boring." And
Wow.
the person keep persisting, and I was like, okay, I'll try. After I tried it, I love it. Right?
Wow.
Don't say no, just try it. It
Mhm.
After then you might find out where your heart is. So look at me of
Yes.
trying on those jobs that people maybe look down to.
Yes.
I have so much respect for people who work on those two jobs because now
Yes.
I've been there. And then both those jobs help me to get my next job.
In what way? From the experience or maybe meeting new other people if you wanna
Oh yeah, sure. So I think in my field, a lot of the people want to be medical science liaison. So and then that MSL, that job is notoriously hard to get in. If you don't have experience, it's almost impossible.
Okay.
Like they just want people with experience, right? So people always ask me like, I want to be MSL, but I don't have experience. How do you get it? You get experience from, for example,
Yes.
the how do I get this job? Because I did sales,
Mm.
right? I was territory manager for this biotech company, and
Wow.
then I actually did the Botox medical office job. So the job I was applying to was the Botox therapeutic MSL. Immediately, I'm different from anybody else.
Yes.
Yeah. But before then, really, when that job comes along, I never dream of having that job. But somebody else call me up and saying like, "Hey, Connie, you want to apply for MSL?" I'm like, not really. But what is a drug? And then that person said Botox. Well, okay, I'll give it a shot because I personally really like the drug. It's a neuroscience drug. So without those two experiences, I don't think I will be competitive at all, right? You never know. Everything, little thing that you contribute to, you invest your time to, try to make the most out of it. Later on, it just enriches your life. And later on, you never know when that's going to become useful. It's
The
better
uni
than staying in one spot and never do anything, right?
Thank you for tuning in to this podcast. Only 31% of the people who tune in to watch this podcast, they are subscribed. So I want to encourage you to please subscribe so that this content can reach far and wide. Thank you again, and may the markets be with you. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. I keep on getting this vibe that you like giving, right? You're more of a giver than a taker, and then in so doing, the universe will conspire in your favor.
Mm.
Interesting. So that's very interesting. So now you work with in the gaming industry, and I know you have worked for ABV, those big corporations. I like, trading stocks in the stock market. So those are some of the names that I see on the public market. So those are like very big institutions. So what are the things that you like about, your current work? Or maybe put it differently. What is your
Mm.
typical day like?
For development director in electronic art or in AbbVie.
You can maybe start with Abby and now what is your
Yeah.
day like? Yes.
Okay. Those two jobs are very different. One is MSL, one is development director, which is more like project manager.
Yes, okay.
So MSL job is, say flexible.
Yes.
Uh, the main goal is to communicate medical sciences to the top doctors who are the medical influencer doctors
Okay.
in the region that you are responsible for.
Okay.
So it could be if you in a different type of drug in the product cycle, what you do will be different. Like Botox is a very mature cycle. It's
Yes.
been around for 30 years.
Yes.
So, but Botox, the drug itself, has a lot of active research still going on. So what I do is like every day I have to read piles of papers, and so I know I keep on top of the newest thing. So when I talk to the doctors, I know what to talk about. Like they can have all kinds of random question. If you make good friends with them, they'll ask you like, "Hey, Connie, my patient's asking me for this, and like I'm wondering if you have any scientific support that you could provide me." So the job is very, very scientific. Like most of the time that you need, not most of them, actually right now they only have, usually you need to have a PhD or MD or MD PhD to get that job. This is very competitive.
Wow.
Um, they there's no there's no typical day, but usually it's like I wake up, I read, and then I do a lot of presentations.
Mhm.
And nighttime, run events like little talks with gatherings of doctors, and some, the doctor might be presenting or I will be presenting. In the non-COVID time, you'll be traveling quite a bit in different territories and meeting the doctors. Yeah,
Mm.
that's MSL.
Mhm.
If you like to talk, maybe that's a good thing. If you like to read scientific paper, that's probably a good thing. I don't. I don't like reading a lot of scientific papers.
I see.
Yeah, so for the development director in Electronic Arts is completely different. It's an entertainment
Yes.
business, right? Yeah, the main thing really, if I say why I'm happier in electronic art, is because it's beautiful things happening all the time. It's happiness, it's like excitement, entertainment.
Mm.
Nobody is dying.
Oh,
Well, the Botox therapeutic is not cosmetic, so it's cosmetics happy. But then Botox therapeutic is people who have strokes. It's really
yes.
unfortunate
Yeah.
folks, right? So I feel sad. I'm pretty empathetic. So I've been doing addiction research, addiction policy, and then this health issues, and I'm like, okay, I need something happy. So
Yeah.
in electronic arts, project managers, now my team is a total around 25 people, so they cross the globe. So
Wow.
what I do is I'm making sure that our what we have to work on is moving at the right pace, and all the partners that need to be coordinated are coordinated. So that's a very high level job,
Yes.
high level description.
Yes.
It's very hectic. In the we
Very
have a lot of partners. So during the day, I'm like constantly communicating. I have 9 to 12 meetings a day.
yes.
In between the meeting, I have to pump out plans, and I have to make sure people have the right thing to do at the right time.
Yes.
Um, it's it's hectic but fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. Now, I'm curious now, like, what does, like the future look like for you? Because, I hope maybe at some point you try to go back in politics so
Yeah.
that we can maybe, campaign for you again.
Yeah. Well, I get asked, right? Once you run once, and everybody asks you every time. Yeah, I do. I still care, and then I do still volunteer. I don't have a lot of time right now. I was on boards. I was the president of the Writing Association, the regional director for our party. But right now, I'm doing an MBA as well, so I don't have a lot of time to spread. So right now, I'm only volunteering for financial agent, which is basically like doing accounting or bookkeeping
Yes.
for one campaign. So it's just my little way of giving back, and I also make new friends, right?
Yes.
So I'm still keeping my connection in politics, but I want to do that after my financial situation is more stable. But I
Yes.
stay in school for a long
Yeah.
time.
I
I need
think
to make money.
I think that's very interesting and honest
Mm,
way of assessing the situation, because if you go into politics, you need money to for the campaign, and sometimes I think I have read stories of candidates who then lose after borrowing money, right? And then you get into a situation where you are financially stretched even after losing the
mm.
election. So that's very interesting. Is there anything that you would like to share that other people around the world might, learn from your experience? I know we can talk and talk because, we have a lot in common.
Mm. You mean the political side?
Uh,
Um,
about your career in general and even including
I
the
think my career story, when I tell my career story, I hope that why when you ask me that
yes,
question, I'm glad to share maybe I'll say the lower time that people don't see,
yes,
that that you shouldn't be ashamed of doing something that you just need to eat, right? I got friends who now are do, doing the dream job that they have in the dream company. You look at that person like, wow, like I really want to be that person. But while that person was looking for work, he was working in Walmart
mm,
as a cashier,
yes,
graduated with a PhD degree, right? So a lot of the people who have been there, they don't stop moving. Yeah, sure, everybody had that depression period of time, like, oh, the self-doubt period of time.
What's next?
Get your friend support. Really, like, don't suffer alone. Get your friend support, get more people with you who maybe, can work together towards the same goal or can understand where you're coming from. And start walking again, start running again, going towards your goal, identify your goal. And then another, I think my story is, you see, I'm going all over the place.
Yes.
I don't regret any one of it. But
Yes.
a lot of the people come, is close to finishing a PhD, or after they finish, they're like scared about their career, right?
Yes.
And they keep asking, oh, should I go this way? Should I go that way? Should I go? I'm like, just do something.
Yes.
Look at my career. I try all these things, and then I end up at a place where I'm happy
Yes.
of where I am, because now I'm very sure this
Yes.
is where I want to be, because I have been to places where I like,
Yes.
and been to places I really don't like. So I'm very sure what I like right now. And now my career is like, this is happy place for me. I'm staying here and I'm slowly moving up. This is what I want to do.
Yes.
Yeah, don't be ashamed or
You know,
afraid or trying. Yeah.
yes. Like I said, I have some people, mostly from the developing countries, like particularly in Zimbabwe, they say, oh, well, coming to Canada and doing care work. And then to me, the way that I look at it is that now, at some point, you are going to get old if you are lucky enough. Who is going to take care of you, right?
Mm.
In this country, we are fortunate that, it's a very, I would say a very big industry, because I was looking at a job report that almost 1 in 2 British Columbians, right? They are most likely going to work in that industry, right? And it's well regulated, it's unionized for most of the institutions. So it's pretty much a very good and decent job in my experience. And like you said, there's no shame in doing that, because you are getting paid, or even you're volunteering. But more importantly, you can learn something, right?
Mm-hmm.
From that,
Mm-hmm.
some people have worked in those industries and then realize that there are actual opportunities to start their own agencies. But
Mm-hmm.
now, even if you do start your own agency, you have first-hand experience of how the systems and the industry, works, because it's a big, complex industry. There are regulations, you're dealing with clients, you're dealing with situations. So I find it very powerful that, despite you having a lot of qualifications, including a PhD in neuroscience, you took a job that most people would potentially have said, well, this is below my pay grade. But still, it opened the possibilities for you. As you said,
Yeah.
you ended up learning the things that you like and maybe you not so like, because sometimes we think we know ourselves, at least speaking for myself. And then later on, I realized, like, oh, actually, I don't really like this, but it always looks greener on the other side, right? So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate the privilege of your time, Dr. Lin, and I hope at some point we will connect. And good luck on your PhD work and everything. And I hope to see you sometime again soon. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye for now.
Bye.